You're listening to Redman in the House. Hey, it's a podcast. All right, broadcasting around the globe and well beyond the stratosphere. Hey, we are glad you're here. Welcome to Redman in the House. It's a podcast. My name is Richard Ronson Vickery, better known around the podcast world as RBV, and it is an absolute honor to be sitting here with the one, the only, arguably, what many would argue, a living legend, Mr. Billy Redman Floyd. Sir, welcome not just to your show, your first episode of your podcast.
With all that opening, I might have to pay you now. Appreciate all the allocates, Rick. This is a pleasure to do this. I know I talked to you earlier about a book writing that somebody said, do you need to do a book, Redman? And I said, I can't write. I can't do that stuff. And I couldn't find nobody to do it. And run into you and you said, you ever thought about doing a podcast? Do it live. And I said, I'm game.
You're right, man. And it's kind of the precursor. What we're hoping here for this first episode is to give everybody really an introduction of what's in store. We're going to be talking about the life, the times, the loves, the passions, and hopefully share through those experiences some guiding lights, some advice to the world in all that you've been involved in throughout your life. We're gonna talk about the then, the now, the future. You said, why put it in a book? We wanted to bring it live to the people. And we're going to have a lot of different things. We're going to have a lot of new merchandise out there. We're going to do some live stuff as well. But again, we're getting settled in here with our intro episode. And I want to start things off going way back when you were just a wee little guy.
Yes, 14 years old.
14 years old. I'm going to go a little bit further than that. Born and raised West Side, correct?
West Side, the best side of Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati, Ohio. What was life like in those early years when you were a young whippersnapper?
Well, we lived on State Avenue, believe it or not. I went to Euler through the 5th grade, and then my parents bought a house down here in Harrison, Ohio. And I always loved looking at cars and magazines like all young boys do, most of us. And I just had a fascination for cars, and it just grew from there. And then when I was 14 years old, one of the neighbor boys was driving. He said, hey, you want to go to Edgewater? So
hey, I know that place.
Oh, yeah, you're there. And that was the first time I'd ever been to a race, and I was hooked. I saw a 409 Chevrolet, Lowell Swing, Harrison, Ohio, running Dallas Kelly with a 427 Ford from Harrison, Ohio, with a flagman. And it was game on after that, heads up. And I'll tell you, as soon as I got my driver's license, I was there every weekend.
I'll say a little bit of a background about Billy and myself. That's actually really how we hit it off and started talking. He got word, I have one of the great honors of being one of the voices at Edgewater Sports Park. And brother, I got to tell you, when Billy found out about that, man, it opened up the entire world to me. He was telling me about the history of the track. The sport of drag racing. I've learned so much. And one of the reasons I wanted to come on board here is to help pass that along as well. We're going to be talking a lot about drag racing, your adventures, all that you have done there. Your especially, here where we're recording at the VFW, also that we share in common is we both have that passion for creating for the community.
Right.
If it be restaurant, bar type live events and all that, which I think is very, very cool as we sit and record this first episode. Right next door to us, another great passion is going on. One of the things you put together is the 2nd annual train show for enthusiasts and collectors.
Well, I'm a collector myself, and I got hooked on trains, so my passion's been cars and trains. And I'm glad Rick got me over here because I've been shopping and I need to quit shopping. But yes, I love model trains. I've been hooked. My dad was a railroader. Most of my family worked on the railroad between the New York Central, became the Penn Central, and then a lot of my folks in the South worked for the Southern. And I've always had a passion for trains. I love watching them and riding them.
That's another thing. We've got my great-grandfather was with the B&O, and my dad retired from Norfolk Southern. So another thing we've got in common there. And where we're recording, the beautiful facility yet to open for the day. In a couple hours, an hour or so, this place is going to be rocking. But we are at the VFW 7570 in Harrison, Ohio. One of the best V's, the place to be here at
Is
the
the V, yes.
And you are the head commander here.
Yes, I became commander about a little over 2 years ago. And I got kind of put in a position. I had a passion. I held another office, and things kind of went disarray, and we got them back on track. And we have a lot of venues here. We got music. We have live events, do a fish fry. If you can keep a post on us, we're on Facebook, VFW 7570 here in Harrison, Ohio. We always got some kind of event going on. We even got a Christmas bazaar for the ladies next week. Craft show, vendor show. Come down, buy candles, buy anything you like Christmassy. And in a couple of weeks, we even got breakfast with Santa for the little ones. So we're always doing something.
Always something. You've always got something going on. So real quick, just peppering it out there, a little taste of what we're going to be talking about throughout the weeks here as the episodes roll out for Redman in the House. It's a podcast. Let's deep dive a little bit into a couple of these things. I want to kind of go back to the drag racing, and you talk about that first time. You'd already kind of had this inkling. You had that itch, but the first time you went there, brother, you got to satisfy that scratch.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you take that from, okay, you're in the stands, you're a fan in the grandstands, love what you're seeing there. I want to be a part of this.
Right.
How does that happen?
Well, I was going through a little struggle in my life. I'd been into service and got home, and I was standing along the fence there watching, and a lot of the folks here remember Bob, Mr. Clean Martin, the photographer down there. And it was one of the first races of the season, and there was nobody working the head of staging who's familiar. You come around, make up, and a left. And the cars were just all coming out. And so he was walking by, and I said, hey, I could do that job over there if you need somebody to clean that mess up. And he looked at me, and then he come back, and he said, go over there, fix that for us. And I said, okay. And he said, somebody be around to talk to you later. Well, I went over, worked all day. Nobody came and talked to me. So the next week I go stay in my place by the fence. Mr. Clean walks by and says, hey, what are you doing? You're supposed to be over there. I said, nobody talked to me. He said, get over there. You'll be talked to today. And then that's how it took off in 71. It was my first race I ever worked at Edgewater.
Wow, 71 going way back, even before the previous, the Wiley family who's had it for 46 years, even before that.
Right.
So many changes have happened down there. Which one of the, when you and I visited the track last season for one of the big events, I was kind of blown away. You were telling me about how the layout had changed and all that over there. So you get your start there. You're at Edgewater. Was Edgewater where we got the nickname?
Edgewater. Redman? No, that became with Buster Couch, the national event starter for NHRA.
So how do you go? We'll hold off for that story just for a moment. So you're at Edgewater for all those years. How do you go to that next level? Because you go to those national events. Were some other tracks that you became a regular at, or was it, I'm just going to start touring with the big events? Well,
we had what they called the Winstons back then. They were what there is Lucas events now, which is sportsman racing. But back then the pros ran the Winston races. So Edgewater was owned by Jim Settles then. And he put on a couple events, and I was the starter then. I moved from the lanes to the starting line. And Bob Daniels, which a lot of folks will remember, was the Division III director. He liked what I did, and he says, hey, you ever need a job, want to work with us? We'd love to have you. Well, I was a big spectator of the U.S. Nationals, which is the granddaddy of them all. And he sat there, and I said, well, okay, I'll think about it. And then I went through another little turmoil in life. And then
so it was just, you didn't want to give up kind of as a fan. You didn't want to give up that fan side of it, everything, the party that happens and all that.
Yeah, because a lot of guys had warned me, say, hey, you start working, you're not going to like it. And I said, okay, so, which kind of scared me. So I got this turmoil going on. I got it cleared up. So I saw Bob. I said, that offer still ever open to work a race? He said, yeah. I said, well, I'd like to work the U.S. Nationals. And he said, you're on. So I was working Seagram's part-time. I was laid off, and there was a call at the house. My mom said, Bob Daniels called. I said, really? This was like in May. And so I turned around and called him. He says, hey, you want to work the Spring Nationals in Columbus, Ohio? And this was in 1978. And I said, sure. So I started out in Columbus, Ohio in 1978 with a big body, sanctioned body.
Wow. Paint the picture for us out there of what it's like in the position of the starter. And you've got these, drag racing is so unique in the sense of, it's just not competitor versus competitor. I mean, it's man versus machine, besting themselves. And to be there in the middle, to be responsible for all of that, it's such a major undertaking.
Right. Back in the day, see, we didn't have auto start, which everything's auto start now. And that's another ball game we'll get into. But everything was manual start. And you turn around, you had a lot to watch for. Like you say, it was a lot of responsibility. You wanted to be fair, impartial. Even if it's your best buddy, your son, your brother, your daughter, you got to stay neutral. You're like the referee in a ball game. And you want the best surface for the guys. You want the cars to hook. There's nothing, and I think the people out here will agree, worse than watching cars spin and, not getting off the line and doing their full potential. I know watching some of the events, I know the pedal fest, they call them, and Top Fuel's kind of neat once in a while. But we all want to see the cars go and hook up, carry the wheels. Some of them carry them in all 4 gears back in the day. And it's just so neat. And then when you're there in the middle and you kind of glance around, see the people in the stands, and they're all kind of envy you, like, hey, that guy's got the best seat in the house. It's like, whew, it's a rush, and it's a thrill, and it is an honor. That's all I can say about that. It's just a blast.
Well, before we get into some of those just more memorable moments that will always stick with you, were there any hard lessons that you learned?
Oh yeah, you could pre-guess, prejudge. That word assume, what it breaks down to. You assume you get in trouble real quick. Oh, there's guys I quick treed. There's guys I long treed. Oh, there'd be stuff. And then they get playing games, and you're trying to get the other guy that's playing the game up there, and then some of them will come back angry and barking at you like, and you go, hey. And it's tough. You learn trial by error is how you learn.
Yeah, the polite way to put it, it's tough because I have the privilege to sit way up there in that tower, and I look at it, and sometimes the heat, just not from the natural heat from the elements, but from the crowd, the crews, the drivers, it's all eyes, center of attention's on that starter. If they got a bad run, it's your fault or your track fault.
Oh yeah, they come back. I didn't do nothing wrong, right? Yeah, okay. I've had that happen, especially with the automatic cars, when they got the line locks and stuff in them, and the automatics. Sometimes the bands will loosen up in the transmission, right? Well, the car seems like the stages, and he's on the throttle, and then it'll just lay down like this, backs up, and I go, my car didn't move. I had a guy really in my case about it one time, and they had it filmed. They came back the next week and goes, "You're right. We got into the transmissions, some bands loosened up, and it just settled back down." I mean, they think you don't see what's going on, and you have to pay attention. It's not just get up there and flip a button and it's all easy peasy. You got to sit there and stay focused on what's going on. And that's how you learn the respect of the racers, and you respect them. That's one of the greatest things to do. That has been a thrill for me. I've met so many people, Rick. So many
who are
people.
Some of those that have really made like a lasting impression with you?
Probably first time I met Don Garlitz at Edgewater, first guy to do a 5 at Edgewater, and all the big riders and all the sportsmen. I mean, Edgewater, the weekly shows at Edgewater were outstanding. Rob can contest, his dad Dick and Granny Goose, Apricot Brandy, the cars back in the day, they put on a show as good as any show out there today for that time, back in that time in history. And it's like, it would just be, people be lined up on the fence just watching that.
It was really a golden age of drag racing, because you've told me a couple of times, and we've got to look through your picture albums, and I call it like the holy grail that you got, of the history of, especially here locally with drag racing. But it was more than just what was on the track. It was a spectacle, a circus, an over the top event that the whole community wanted to be a part of.
Well, and another thing in the position I was in, when you're a young fella, it's all about the cars. You get fascinated watching the cars, and wow, look at that one, look at this one, look at that.
I'm sure you weren't checking out any of them bugs at all.
No. And then they turn around, you sit there and you go, well, this is great. And then as you get older, we all know and experience it is the cars, but then you meet who's driving the car. And then you meet the personalities and the folks, and what great folks are out here. And you sit there, and then the car becomes second. Because, you go, hey, there's so-and-so, and hey, how you doing? How's the family? It becomes one great big family. And even though you're competing, even though you might have a little ire for somebody, everybody still respects everybody out there. Might not want to go to grandma's house together, but hey, you get along together, and it's a sport that I haven't found anything like it. Professional baseball, football, any of them. I just don't think there's a sport out like racing. Yeah, I just don't. I've never seen none like it where everybody kind of comes together and you break down, right? And the crew that might not like you gets over what you need, and they jump in and help you get your car back out there. That's what's neat about this sport.
Has that been one of the steadies throughout the evolution of drag racing? Is, as the game changes, the styles, the cars, the strategies, at its core, have you seen over your years, still working? You just did some national stuff this past year, that it still is that family and togetherness.
Oh yeah, I did. I was working the back of the lanes at Indy one year. And this guy we call out of division cars. As all the sportsman racers know, you got 7 divisions in the HRA. And this guy had broke something and he needed help. Well, here come Nick Iarussi, and he was there. And I said, Nick, can you help this guy? And they don't know each other. And Nick jumps in and helps him, and this guy got to make the next round, which he wouldn't have got to make, and he could have said no. And he jumped right in there and helped the guy get his car ready. And it was neat. And if everybody knows Nick was a great guy. Him and his wife, Joanne, raced. She had a Vega, and she ran super gas. And Nick's had the altered 55, has Godzilla on the side of it. And he started out in, I think it was factory experimental or some class of that, because it's got an altered wheelbase. And then he turned around and he started running pro gas and then super gas, and just great folks. They live up in here in Ohio, and they're just fabulous people. I think they still bracket race a little bit.
You mentioned a female driver there. We get such great debate, especially here in 2025, about men and women competing. Well, at the forefront, drag racing is there. I mean, you've got some of the top drivers, especially today, are female.
Oh yeah.
And I guess I don't want to get any trouble here. I'm not a scientist, a little bit bigger, but I've heard it's because the women have better hand-eye coordination.
Well, that and they're not intimidated. It's not like some of the sports we've had lately where we've got people competing that shouldn't be in certain areas, and this is a level playing field.
I don't know how you can say it's not intimidating. You get in the driver's seat of one of those to hit those speeds in that short of a time. That's pretty intimidating to me.
But most of the gals I've seen race sit there and they're more calm and cool. They don't worry about who's in the other lane. I've had guys come to me and, I got to run this one or that one, and they're nervous from the get-go. Most of these girls out here, they jump in, bring it. They say, bring it.
How has been the evolution with women in drag racing? I mean, it was like from when you started there, how many were driving? Because there's quite a few out there. I mean, it's
let's go back in history. Edgewater had a
60-40 field.
Yeah, but back then it was probably even less. Back in the day at Edgewater, and this goes back to when it was 2-lane. It was a little gal. I think she was out of Norwood, and I'm hoping some of my older folks out there will remember. It was Barbara Burton. The husband tried to drive, but he was nothing compared to Barbara. And she ran 6 cylinders, and she ran, I think the lowest class back then was J gas. And she was quite stout at it. She was good. And she raced against them every week. The Granny Goose, the Dick Winley, the whoever it may be, didn't bother her. She got right in there and ran with them. You got Barb Hamilton, who ran a double C-gas Willie's coupe. She'd run right against the George Montgomerys, all them guys back in the day, And of course, Shirley, look at Shirley Muldowney, come out of nowhere and I think she's 2 world time champion and divisional champions. And the women come on strong. I mean, in the day, you got the young girls. I mean, the young girls now, oh my God, that girl from Terre Haute, Gross. Her first name's got me off right now, but her whole family races, and they race in the heads up category, super gas, super calm. She's won numerous races. She don't back an eyelash to none of them. She goes right after them. And there's just been so many great folks and women. I mean, they just, They're just fabulous, and there's more all the time.
I say one of my highlights. I got to meet Don Purdue, one of the fastest women on the planet. Top speed there. I had a great video where it was the first time that she'd ever tried Skyline chili. So I had a great time working with her the weekend that they were down at Edgewater with us. So we've got the big cars. You got the guys, the girls. What are your thoughts? Your feelings? About the future of the sport, and continue to build that with our junior dragsters.
I think that's where it's at. A lot of the young girls, that's where they come from. Randy Lynn Ship, junior dragsters. Randy Lynn, she's won a lot of races. She even set a record at first in Mountain Motor Pro Stock, first female, yeah. And she's got one badass stock car she races, but she'll run super gas. She'll run about any class there is. And she come out of the junior ranks. A lot of these girls have. And John Force's daughters, they started out like in super comp. And then they moved up through the alcohol ranks and then right on into the fuel ranks. And they've had stellar careers. All three girls have. And Alexis DeJoy, she's done really well. And I think it's good for the sport. And it's a sounding board. I know every kid don't go, it's just like Little League, anything else. Some's going to go on in their baseball career, football, but a lot of them fall out. Same way with drag racing, they're all hopped up and then they kind of drift away, but a lot of them stay in it. And these kids out here, when they get in the big cars, are tough. And I remember J.R. Todd. First time I ever saw J.R. Todd come out of junior dragsters. Cute story about J.R. He was foot braking a dragster, believe this or not. And the first round person he had at the Winston race was Edmund Richardson. J.R. is just 16 years old. He don't know Edmund Richardson for nobody. And Edmund, world champion, division champion, numerous big-time winner, strapped him right off the get-go. JR had no inkling of who he was, laid it right on him. And then JR kept going up, stepping up through the ranks, working for Bob Gilbertson, I know, for a while. Then he got with Connie Coletta, and look at the success he's had. JR's, and right here, local grown, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, even, So yeah, there's the junior dragster is really helped keep drag racing going.
As the sport as a whole, and I know we're going to deep dive and kind of dissect the different, slice up the pizza and really sink our teeth into some different strategies and some future episodes and all that. But the kind of layout, like, where do you see, what are some must happens to continue to grow? Or even maybe, get back on track, no pun intended here, yes, for drag racing, because it has gone through a lull. There has been a down point, and there's probably a number of factors there. But if you had to key in on a few right now, what would they be? Well,
cost. We all know cost of living, cost of parts, cost of everything drove everything sky high. Entry fees have gone up, purses they try to bring up, and it's a kind of a I don't know, offset where you got to, the tracks are trying to make a little money to stay open. Racers need a little money to keep putting in the car. And I think things are coming along. A lot of the big bracket races are helping keep a lot of guys racing. Back when bracket racing started, it was like a catch-all. Everybody that couldn't fit in a class kind of fell into the brackets, give them somewhere to run. And everybody was happy. You could have a big motor, tires, slicks, whatever to run, and you'd run against a time, and then you'd dial that car into that time against another car in his time. And their purses started out low, and then they started growing. Well, then bracket racing started growing, and purses started growing. And now you got into these big bracket races, which have evolved and helped a lot of tracks. I think in the sportsman racing, the category racing, there's still a lot of support out there. It takes a lot of money to do this. Everybody knows that. And a lot of the folks in my age range
to help offset that.
Well, sponsorship, they go out and they try to find sponsors and support them. And every little bit helps, whether it's fuel to get to the races or the racing fuel part of it, or buy me a set of slicks or buy this, buy that. That's what helps. The stickers on the cars, and then you see sponsors' names on there, sponsored by Winley's Auto Service, or something of that nature. And the guys ink for their money. They get the publicity every time that car goes down the track, sponsored by whoever that may be. And, lot of the motor services back then did that. Engine shops, you had James Ellison Engine Service, Warren Gross and them up there, Competition Milling, and Dick D&J Automotive sponsored cars, and that all helped the racers evolve and keep going. And that's what they still do to this day. They get sponsorships, no matter how big or small. Every little bit helps them guys get up and down the highway.
I think that's the key to remember, is any little bit, no big, how small. But also, you're just not a racer there. I mean, you're a business and a brand, and you go out there, connect with the community.
Yes.
Get some, business to business networking involved.
Right. Well, and a lot of guys take their cars, like they'll go to a car show or go to, say, whoever's sponsoring them, maybe go to their business, have the car on display, sign a few autographs, take pictures, do this, do that. That all helps, because there's a lot of folks out here don't know what drag racing's about. They'll see it and they go, oh, okay. But it's like, get them involved, get them there. That's where we want to start young, Rick. Me and you've talked about the kids. Get kids there. Just even to spectate, get that level fever like Redman when he was little, standing on the fence, hanging on there, my golly, watch them cars and get hooked. And hopefully they evolve and they grow into this. That's how it goes. We got to keep moving forward.
Keep moving it forward. Well, in your life, you kept moving it forward. You took all of those lessons, those passions that you had there on the track. And again, it said, we're sitting here recording, beautiful facility, a great event going on next door. The cantina here is about to get rocking. So much. You'd mentioned you kind of fell into the spot here as commander. How do you parlay all those lessons in life, those passions for racing, into your role here as the commander of the VFW?
I think a lot of it's common sense. I think sometimes our world's lost a little touch with common sense. We try to make things harder. And I think if you just sit back for a minute and study it and look at it a little bit, it's no different tuning a car. You sit there, I got a problem. And then you sit back and I know what it is now. And you figured it out because you sit back, took a moment, instead of being aggravated, mad, throwing tools, whatever it may be. Same way with anything in life. Sit there, sit back, be calm, and try to work with people. I know it's hard in our world today. This. Our world's kind of upside down. We all know it. But if we could all get the love and passion back, we're all here for a reason. We're all here to have fun, enjoy life, and hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? That old line. And it's like, that's the way I feel, just like the racers. I used to love to, we'll get into that later too, pit control. And I love to be the guy, I felt like the good humor ice cream man. How you doing? And what are you doing out here? And then they get a big smile on their face because they start feeling relaxed instead of somebody barking at them, like, hey, get that and put it over here, No, customer service, back to the old good customer service stuff. But that's what we need. Let's get back to kind of loving humanity and getting ourselves back to being friendly to each other again, and enjoying life. Life is a great thing. And I'm kind of a part-time philosopher, I guess, but I tie it all together. Like I said, once I got to know the people in racing, oh my goodness, you figure I worked my first race in 71. So what is that? So that's how many years I've had a passion for being a part and involved, because I couldn't afford a car. I could race a street car, but I couldn't afford some of this stuff these guys and gals have got. I'd love to. I had a street rod once and I was in love with that thing, but it was like nothing like them cars and watching them wheel stands and watching them run. It's just, I don't know. It was neat.
Well, we had talked about some of those people that you met. Were there any of those big moments that you look back on like, man, I just can't believe I got to be there for that?
Well, when Gartless ran the 5-second run at Edgewater, was kind of neat. He was there for a Lucas race, and he was walking down the starting line. He asked me, he says, which lane's the best here? And I said, well, usually the right lane's a little stouter here. I said, and, at the time, and he says, well, I'm going to be coming down doing a checkout pass. And he said, I'm going to click it off early. Don't worry about it. He says, everything will be fine. I said, okay. So he went back, and here he come down, and he sat there, staged the car, and he took off, and he kept going and going and did a 5.95, first 5 ever at Edgewater. Well, he come back later, and he was heading to the tower, and I yelled at him. I said, hey, what? I said, I thought you were going to lay out of that thing. He says, oh, it felt so good. I had to stay right in it. And he stayed right in it all the way to the end, #1 qualifier. But he didn't win the race. So that was unusual for him too. So, but that was a nice experience, you know. And then meeting Buster Couch, working with Buster Couch, that was one of my ultimate dreams. And what a guy. Everybody races in HRA that can remember Buster Couch. He was the most dominant figure, starting line figure there ever was, fair, never took no BS, never took nothing. And I tell you what, I never worked with a guy that was so fair and level-headed as him. He was just so on his game and taught me so much. If you were a starter and wanted to learn, that's who you wanted to learn to emulate was Buster Couch.
Great mentor then.
Oh, yeah.
So we put it off here. And so Redman, where did Redman come from?
Buster Couch. I was working, I finally got to work with him, and being a redhead and fair complected, it takes me about 3 burnings before I start tanning. And having both combinations, I come up there to work with him, and he looked at me and he said, Redman. And I'm looking around like, who's he talking to? He said, go get a radio. And I said, oh, okay. So I had to go back, get a radio, and the name stuck. Redman, and everybody started learning me Redman. I don't know how many people really know my real name. And
In the House.
Yeah,
Redman in the
that's
House.
another story for later. But yeah, that name come on later on. But
I always just love sitting over here at VFW with you, and we're sharing stories, conversations, and people will just kind of mosey on in for the day. Bobby, in the house, in the house.
Oh, yeah. And, but yeah, he was so bigger than life. I mean, working for him was just absolutely wonderful. But yeah, he nicknamed me Redman, and it stuck. I've been called a few other names, and everybody knows what Red goes with, but he's the one that stuck me with that one, and it stayed. That's what everybody knew. That's what I get called on the radio. They never called me by my name. And so there was no mistaking who they wanted.
I think you might have gave me an idea for, I was thinking about an intro thing.
Mm-hmm.
It might be, you never call me by my name. That
yeah, that's an old song. Yeah.
Our song coming in. So to wrap things up here with our first episode, our debut, just an introduction to everybody out there. Maybe I'll just let you kind of do it. What do you hope to accomplish with this amazing project?
Well, I was telling you earlier, I'd like to see people have fun with it. I've watched a lot of podcasts, and they're all good. And a lot of them get into the technicals, and that's good. I want this to be humorous, fun. You sit back and go, wow, I remember this, or I remember that, or jog somebody's memory about a story. The pictures we got, we're going to share them with you. Maybe put a couple on, maybe chime in. I remember that car. That was so-and-so. Also, Rick, I'd like to see him maybe chime in with a question or two for you for your list of, hey, see if we can answer it. You know, were you ever here or ever there? And I just want it to be entertaining to where it's not boring and you go, okay, I've had enough of this, and click it off. Make it exciting so people will tune in every week and see what kind of stories we got this week, you know. So that's what I'd like to see. I want to just share the experience I've had. I know some racers do, and some racers get lost into what they're doing. But, you know, I used to tell racers in the pits, Rick, I said, you know, you guys get mad once in a while and you guys get irritated. I said, but you know what's so neat for me? I'll be sitting in my golf cart watching some little kids walking by, and you're standing there and they start asking you questions about your car. And then you guys seem to change, and you go, and it's what's neat. You get to be asked about your car and go, instead of, what's that car? You know, it's really neat to see that stuff, you know. And more episodes ahead, you know, we'll get into like cars' names. That's another thing. How'd you get that name? You know, it is. I just want to teach people some of the history or what I've experienced. I guess my life's experience and how wonderful this sport's been to me.
Absolutely. Hey, we are going to have a lot of fun in the upcoming weeks. We're going to block things off. You're going to get like 8 to 10 episodes. We'll take a reset. We'll go to a season 2, but we have got a lot planned. As Redman was saying here, we're going to take strolls down memory lane with some great photos. We're going to do some live specials to get listener interaction.
Yes.
We're going to go inside the business of the business. If it be in drag racing, if you're in hospitality, if you're in live events, a lot of just passions out there. We're going to cover a lot of that for you. But, you know, we're so glad that you're here with us for our debut episode, our introduction here. You kind of inspired me here. I was kind of thinking about a list of these first episodes. I think episode 2 will be coming at you here very soon with it. How about we break down a little, you know, for the drivers out there, because I'm really excited to talk this about creating a brand like you did with Redman, you know, so that they can maybe go get some sponsors, get some help with that, and more so bring character, bring livelihood to their vehicle and their story behind the wheel.
Yes, I would love to do that. I want everybody to be acknowledged out there. I had a good friend, Leo Tower. A lot of folks who know him was one of the best announcers, the voice of Division III, they called him. I lost Leo about 10 years ago. One of my best friends I ever had in my life. And Leo and I hit it off one time when Wally Park's Tower was built at Indy. And I know we got to go here shortly, and I don't want to use all the stories up right away, but racing was over. Leo's car was parked back by mine. I was having an adult beverage after a hot day. And he said, "You wouldn't have another one of them, would you?" And I said, "Sure." So I give him an adult beverage. And I said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Why aren't you at the Carcraft magazine banquet?" That's for the, you know, higher up announcers, TV ones. And he said, "I'm just going to go get some dinner." I said, "Why don't you hop in a truck and let's take a ride around the pits?" "Really?" I said, "Come on." And I took him around, started meeting racers, all the sportsman racers. And that's what made Leo so good. He would meet the sportsman racers. He knew the wives, the girlfriends, the pets' names, the kids' names, the car, where they're from, what they did for a living. And he learned and honed his craft the same way I did. Being a starter, you learn and take that knowledge. And it was just so great. And that's, to me, is what it is, because as a fan, I don't know how most people are as a fan. When I first went racing, it was Steve Evans and McClellan and Bernie Partridge. And Steve Evans, I mean, this guy, he'd sit there and he'd go, "Here's so-and-so, a distillery worker in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And first thing you're looking around like, oh, I work at one." And you watch that car, and then here's so-and-so, he's a dog groomer.
You get those connections.
Yes. And you start looking at the car instead of like, oh, there goes a Camaro or there goes a 55 Chevrolet. You would start going, wow, this guy, he's a dog groomer? Wow. Or a doctor or dentist. You know, I mean, it was just so neat the way they brought the personality of the sportsman racing in instead of just, well, here's Don Prudhomme or Don Gartlett. You know, they were going to get their allocates, but for the sportsmen to hear who they are and what they've won and what they've accomplished for just maybe staying in super stock or super gas, that to me is what I want. I want them to get all the acknowledgement, because it's the old cliche, they're the backbone of the sport. It's a sportsman racer. Don't care what class you run. Y'all are the backbone, and without you, yeah, they can run without you, but you're still the backbone of the sport.
I would call them the bread and butter.
Oh yeah, they put on a show, and I don't think we market them enough sometimes, because you know you usually go to a national event when the pros get on, everybody kind of dress out of the stands. But if you love good racing, sit in them stands a little while and watch good super stock elimination round one or stock or heads up cars. I'm telling you, you will not see no more closer racing than that. It's two top fuels running side by side, as much as there's an A stock sitting on the line, and down there 3/4 away is V stock automatic. Is he going to catch him? And everybody starts standing up like, and it's the oohs and ahs of whoever wins. But it's crazy. That's excitement to me.
There we go. We're talking about that finish line. We are at the finish line for our first episode, our debut. Hey, we want to ask everybody, please, if you haven't already, go on over to Facebook, Redman in the House. Give us a like. Make sure you give us a follow, but share as well with your friends and all that. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Well, make sure you hit that alert so that you get all the heads up when the new shows are being launched. You don't want to miss those premieres at all. And also, remember, keep your eyes and ears open. We got new merchandise that's going to be making its way out there. You can let the whole world know what we got going on here by rocking that Redman gear. We love that kind of support. We're going to have some live chats, things like that. So much more coming at you. Anything before we get out of here, Bill?
It's been a fine pleasure doing this with you, sir.
Well,
I can't wait
we're
for
just
more
getting,
of them.
we're just getting started. We're
I
going to
know.
have a lot of fun. But again, thanks to everybody for joining us here. He's Redman. I'm RBV. This is Redman in the House. It's a podcast. We'll see y'all on the next go around.